What have you learned? Can you remember? What would you like for me to do? Everything you need from me is in your hands. Everything else is up to you. You're like a butterfly on a windy day. You use directions in a roundabout way. What have you learned now that you've been burned by the guy who used to be the center of your eye? And you're blown away by your own hurricane, and you wonder why. Cast away and you're looking through the wreckage for your pride, but you can't salvage what you don't supply. What have you learned now that you've been burned by the girl who used to be the center of your world, who used to be your center of gravity, and now you're so unsure. You're like a squirrel out in the middle of the road. You're halfway there but don't know which way to go. What have you learned now that you've been burned by the one who used to be the one and only? If you could see your sinking dignity, you're like the waves beating on the sandy shore. You swear you've been there once or twice before. What have you learned? What have you learned? What have you learned? What have you learned? Can you remember? Now that they don't know what to do, now that they miss your heart of gold so badly, this is what I'd say if I were you. It's in a treasure chest, it's buried in the sand, but the X does not mark the spot, and I do not need a hand. And if I burst out into flames without your guidance anymore, just gotta be across the sea if you can kiss my ashes from the shore. Na 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 na.